Hey folks, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another movie review. Now, nice guy named Tony had sent me this DVD, but I already had the film on DVD, and that's this DVD, Hannibal, which was a 2-disc special edition. So, he sent it to me. He wanted me to review it, but I already had it. But I know some people wanted me to review the Lecter films. Again, I'm not reviewing Hannibal Rising because I don't own it, and I don't give a fuck about it, and I'm not wasting my time on it because I have seen it before a long time ago and it was shitty. It was a useless prequel. It was a useless prequel. That's the best way to describe it. This, at least, it's a sequel to Silence of the Lambs, and at least it does have Anthony Hopkins, unlike Hannibal Rising. But yeah, Ridley Scott directed this. I know when he was first approached, he thought when they said Hannibal, there was the historical. It was going to be a historical type of flick, where the Hannibal with the elephants and stuff. Because he was doing Gladiator, he's like, I don't want to do another one of those. He's like, no, no, no. This is a sequel to Silence of the Lambs. I know when the novel of this came out, there was quite a bit of controversy. Because, especially the ending, where the Clarice Starling character, it made it out that at the end, because she was either hypnotized or drugged or hypnotized, and she, in this hypnotism, was able to say goodbye to her father or whatever, and then she, after that, appreciated Hannibal Lecter, and then they ran off as lovers. And yeah, there was some what the fuck when the novel came out, and that's not the way the movie ends, which I think is for the better. But Hannibal is one of those movies that I liked okay. I thought the cast is good. Anthony Hopkins. Anthony Hopkins, I thought, did a good job. Julianne Moore, I like. Ray Liotta playing the slime ball. Frankie R. Faison. Frankie Faison. Once again plays the Barney character. Probably has the most to do in this film than any of the films. It's still a small supporting role, but he has probably the most screen time. And Anthony Hopkins and Julianne Moore is the reason I can watch this film. I like it. Gary Oldman is in the film as this character named Mason. I think Verger. But he's a child molester type of guy. And he was with Lecter way back in the past. And he's all fucked up. And he wants revenge. So that's what you do for being a child molester, motherfucker. But here's the thing with this film. It's bloated. That's the problem with this film. There's some decent bits of macabre ideas. I mean, you got pigs eating people, like big gigantic pigs, warthog motherfuckers, like eating people. You have the ending where Ray Liotta's brain and Hannibal Lecter feeding Ray Liotta his own brain or pieces of his own brain. Yeah, you have interesting macabre ideas like that. Two capable leading actors, Anthony Hopkins and Julianne Moore. Pretty decent music. I especially like the piece of music they used at the end credits of the film. I thought Hans Zimmer did a pretty decent job on the score. But it's a bit bloated. It's 2 hours and 11 minutes. And there's moments in this film that seem like didn't need to be in the film, could have been cut out, would have made it faster. Maybe faster is not the right word. A tighter pace. This film needed a tighter pace. And sometimes Ridley Scott, it falls victim to that. This is a film I think it's a bloated film that needed a tighter pace. I mean, the beginning of the film, you have the Barney character who he was worked at the hospital. Well, not hospital, but he worked at the place that Hannibal Lecter was held in Silence of the Lambs, and he's selling stuff, and he sells stuff to Gary Oldman's character. And you have Julianne Moore, who replaces Jodie Foster. Now, Julianne Moore does a really good job in this film. Still, at the same time, I thought Jodie Foster did a great job in the first film. I still wish it was Jodie Foster. Now, there's a couple reasons why they said Jodie Foster didn't do it. It was because she was going to direct this other film, and it was really the perfect time for her to direct that film, so she couldn't do this film. Or it was a money issue, or she had problems with the plot. But if that's the case, she must have thought of the book, where they run away as lovers, because that's not the way the movie is. I thought the movie handled the relationship very well. But again, Julianne Moore did a good job. It's just the fact that it's the name of the character, but it's not this Jodie Foster. It's just Julianne Moore. I have no problems with her. She did not do a bad job. It's just it should have been Jodie Foster. And the movie made a shitload of money, so I think they should have, whatever she wanted, should have given it to her. Just, for continuity's sake, at least. But again, Julianne Moore did do a good job. It just should be Jodie Foster, but, they can only do what they can do. But there's this woman that don't pick up at this fish market. She's now an established FBI agent. This asshole cop who fucks up. Asshole doesn't stand down because the woman comes out that they're supposed to capture. She has a baby in front of her, in a carrier facing towards her. Of course, she does the right thing. It says stand down. This asshole cop's like, fuck that. And then creates a shootout. And she's able to shoot some motherfuckers, in order to do the right thing and save lives. Even have a car slam and the guy sort of gets crushed in. And you have the woman, she puts up like a Mach 10, shoots Julianne Moore in the stomach where her vest is at. And she has no choice. She has to shoot the woman. And she's able to save the baby, and she's washing the baby off with blood. And again, Julianne Moore did do a good job. And she gets fucked over. Her character gets fucked over. And actually, you have David Andrews from a personal favorite of mine, Stephen King's Graveyard Shift. He actually has an appearance here as an FBI agent. And they fuck with her. And she does the right thing. She does the right thing and like, oh, sorry, this is a fuck up. Even though she didn't do anything wrong, she told the asshole to stand down. Why don't you blame the fucking guy to do it? But maybe that's the point. It's unfair. That's the point. But, yeah, the FBI's are assholes. Anyways, so she's pushing to, hey, remember back in the day, the whole Hannibal Lecter thing? How about you look into that again? So she goes over and talks to Gary Oldman, who is a patient of Hannibal Lecter, and Hannibal Lecter, and Gary Oldman was a child molester, and he gone to Hannibal Lecter, who was a psychiatrist, like a court order type of thing. I don't know what the fuck it was. It pretty much fucks with Gary Oldman in order to make Gary Oldman cut his own face, and Anthony Hopkins picks it up and feeds pieces of his face to a dog. So that's what I mean. The sort of grisly ideas were interesting to say the least. It definitely earned an R rating. Some nice makeup effects. I think Greg Canham, could be wrong, had a hand in that. She talks to the Barney character, Frankie Faison, and she's able to tell her a couple of things. So, okay, this is getting into it. Then we're introduced to this big subplot that I really feel slows the film down. I think this entire subplot should have been taken out. It's this Anthony Hopkins character is in Florence, and there's this detective played by Giancarlo Giannini, who I think was in Mimic. This entire subplot, first off, is called Hannibal, and Anthony Hopkins doesn't come until the 30-minute mark. Okay. Even though it's called Hannibal, but okay. I swear, it's like a whole 30-minute subplot with this Giancarlo Giannini character, who's a detective, who is looking for someone who's missing. Um, his department gets these calls going, hey, there's someone. Uh, by this point, Julianne Moore's character has gotten a letter from Lecter, and she talks to some people, and they go, oh, this is a hand cream. There's only a few shops that would have this. And they're like, hey, if you have any shops there, give us the videotapes, send it to us at FBI headquarters. And Giancarlo Giannini gets lucky enough to see the one moment, very convenient, I gotta say. But that happens in movies. I just had to point that out. He's like, hey, I can't recognize that person. And he types in and say, oh, yeah, that's Hannibal Lecter, huh? Oh, there's a reward. Let me call in for the reward. Calls in for the reward. Oh, well, before that, let me make sure on this. So, what does he do? Oh, yeah, this guy gets killed because of him. He's like, oh, I'll get fingerprints. Okay, you, who's, I don't know, it's like a buddy of his, an informant, whoever the fuck. I'm sure they said I didn't fucking give a shit. Because this subplot was boring me to tears. I didn't care about the Giancarlo Giannini character. I thought this was useless. I'm like, let's get back to the Clarice Starling character. Let's get these two facing off with each other a bit earlier. I don't care about this detective who uses this guy. Hey, try to mud this guy or try to get him so that he touches you so you get the fingerprints. Lecter stabs him. Oh shit, the guy's dead. Let me get more on the phone with Gary Oldman. Let's get Gary Oldman's men here. And the only thing that comes out of it is a good line that they have in the trailer, where it's I'm giving very serious thought to eating your wife. And then gets Giancarlo Giannini, ties him up, duct tape, barrels in or barrels out. Oh, not going to decide? Well, I'll decide for you. Slits him, pushes him out, hangs him, barrels fall out to the ground. And then he kills one of Gary Oldman's men. That whole thing is like 30, I swear it's like 30 minutes long. And there's no point to it. What was the point to it? You literally could have had it, oh, the men are looking, they send the videotape, she gets it, Hannibal Lecter somehow, some way finds out. I mean, hell, and Sons of Lambs, or not Sons of Lambs, later on in Red Dragon, which came out the year after this, they had the thing with the phone that he's able to dial and find out where Will Graham is at, Edward Norton's character is at. So, and even in the first one, they established this guy is really smart, so I think he can figure out the way to call Julianne Moore's character, and could have done the phone thing like, is this Clarice? Well, hello, Clarice. Did you like my letter? He could have just done that and would have made a tighter paced film. That Giancarlo Giannini, that whole subplot was pointless. It was useless. It wasn't interesting. It wasn't entertaining. It got one good line that was used in the trailer, and Giancarlo Giannini's death was a little bit interesting. But that's it. I mean, that's not worth the 30-some minutes. It's not worth it. And the only stuff you have in between with Clarice Starling is Ray Liotta fucking with her and him being an asshole saying, oh, this town's full of country pussy. And you want to get some? And she's like, anytime, bring pads in the gym. Or, no, it's anytime in the gym, no pads. So I do like the Julianne Moore was a tough woman. She was not a woman that's going to get trampled on. She's not a woman that's going to let people walk over her. That's why I like Julianne Moore in the film. Again, just for continuity's sake, it would have been nice if it was Jodie Foster, but Julianne Moore did a good job, and I liked her character because she was not a weakling character. She was a strong character from beginning to end. They did the character justice that was in the first movie. I will say that. I thought Julianne Moore, as well as the writing, did that character justice. That's one thing that's a thing why I like the film. I can watch it, and I thought Anthony Hopkins did a good job as well. But that whole subplot was fucking pointless. Because really, after Gary Oldman gets Ray Liotta and says, "Hey, let's set this up," because we know that Hannibal Lecter wants to get in contact with Clarice Starling in at least some way, and Gary Oldman wants to bring Lecter out of hiding to get revenge because of his face thing. So Ray Liotta goes with it because he's an asshole and he gets paid. And they fuck over Julianne Moore. She'll say that she did this and this, which she didn't, or she had this and she didn't have it. It came out of nowhere, and it did. To suspend her, so Hannibal Lecter finds this out. If he's able to find, anyway, he grabs some stuff, some Tupperware and utensils, and is able to sneak in, find out where Julianne Moore lives, sneak in, leave some stuff, call her, hey, go to this place. And a little bit of cat and mouse in here I thought was cool. I liked it. Anthony Hopkins, Julianne Moore, I thought they had some good stuff between each other. Didn't as good as this film, but some good stuff. The whole thing at the carousel where he lightly brushes her hair and she doesn't quite notice. Lecter gets out. He gets taken by Gary Oldman's men. She tells David Andrews. They go up there, don't find anything, of course. So she goes up there, and pretty much Gary Oldman's character's going to feed Lecter to pigs. Since his own face was fed to a dog, so he's going to feed him to these big-ass pigs. And Julianne Moore goes in, shoots a couple. She gets shot herself. Anthony Hopkins carries her bridal style. Tells the assistant, hey, you don't like Gary Oldman, right? Why don't you push him in? You can blame it on me. And because Gary Oldman is a child molester and treats his guy like shit, he does, pushes it off, and Gary Oldman gets his ass eaten by a pig. How many times can you say that? Gary Oldman got his ass eaten by a pig. I guess Hannibal gave us something to the world. And again, people remember that ending where she's drugged up and Ray Liotta's there drugged up and she's drugged with morphine and Hannibal Lecter is cooking. Good way they did the effects were really good. I thought they did the effects very well. Lifts the head up, there's the brain, picks the brain out, cooks it, feeds it to Ray Liotta. Again, it's a very crazy scene. And Ray Liotta's like, oh, that tastes good. And the way it ended was kind of interesting. She handcuffs him to her, and he's like, oh, no, that's really interesting. And you think that he's going to cut her hand off, but instead you realize he cut his own hand off. He's on a flight talking to a kid, and he feeds the kid's like, hey, what's that? It's the brain thing. It's like, yeah, you should always try something, and feeds a piece of Ray Liotta's brain to this kid who was interested in trying. And I like the piece of music at the end, like I said before. So, the film itself, it's R-rated, macabre. I don't know if you want to call it sense of humor or it's the things that it went for. I mean, it's not every mainstream film that's going to have, pigs eating people and someone feeding another pieces of their own brain. I thought Gary Oldman did fine. Julianne Moore and Anthony Hopkins did a good job. I thought Hans Zimmer and the pieces of music was... I liked that. But I feel it got boring a lot of time. It got very boring. I think the whole Giancarlo Giannini detective Florence, it wasn't an interesting character. It wasn't an interesting subplot. And really, that whole thing could have been taken out and probably would have had a better, more tightly paced movie. That's the thing. It's not... Like this one, I just say kept the pacing good enough. It was a more tightly paced movie than this one. That's why this film didn't seem that boring. Even though it's Well, it's a shorter film, too. This is like 2 hours and 11 minutes, and this is an hour and 50-some minutes. So it's a little too long because it's just too bloated, and it got too boring at points. So it just got too boring, too bloated, too... But I just say, again, I like the film okay because of the performances and music and some of this R-rated bloody stuff. But I like the film okay. I know it did well at the box office. I think it's one of the Lecter ones that gets hated on a lot nowadays. I would say I would put this over Red Dragon. I would put this over Hannibal Rising. My favorite is still Manhunter, then Silence of the Lambs, and I put this number 3 because Red Dragon, I'll get to that, but to me, anytime I watch it, I'm like, fuck it, I'll just go watch Manhunter. I do. If people ask, no, I did not watch the Hannibal TV series, and I don't care to. I just don't have time to watch any TV series nowadays. But Peter Travers and Rolling Stone definitely were not lying. The ending you'll never forget. I never forgot that. Ray Liotta's brain thing. The movies at least did that. So I like the film okay. It's just I think it needed some editing scissors, and that entire subplot with Giancarlo Giannini I think could have been left out because it just dragged the film down and got pretty boring at times to the point that you want to use the fast forward button. You never want to use the fast forward button when you're watching a movie. But other than that, I like the film okay. Ray Liotta, honestly, his character is very one note. It's just he's an asshole. And I know Ray Liotta plays that a lot, but I think I would say this is one of his weaker roles. I mean, hell, Copland, he was great. Goodfellas, No Escape. There's other films. Hell, I would definitely put No Escape, his role in that over this. I mean, granted, it's a starring role, so that's not fair, but he even did a film called Unforgettable. He did a good job in that film. But this is one of his weakest roles because it's just, okay, I'm a one-note asshole who talks about country pussy. Gets a good comeuppance, but that's it. But anyway, I like the film okay. It is a step down from Silence of the Lambs, but I still watch this over Red Dragon because again, Red Dragon is just I'd rather just watch Manhunter. But that's Hannibal. It's a 2-disc. Over 30 minutes of deleted and alternate scenes. Commentary of Ridley Scott. 5 making of featurettes. 5 angle breakdown of the fish market action scene. Trailers, TV spots, rare production stills, and unused poster concepts. But anyway, that's Hannibal. Thanks for watching. Take care and stay tuned for more reviews. Later.